Okay, so Andy, just FYI, I normally dress in my much fancier work type clothes, so I've dressed down just for the video. Anyway, let me just start in here. Thank you all for having me. My name is Bodie Kroll, and I'm here to talk to you about a program called Take Shape for Life, which I can say quite literally saved my life. And I'll show you what I mean. As you can see on this screen here, this health chart is actually a chart of my numbers for a 4-year stretch. And what you'll notice here is these are my triglycerides. At the end of this testing period, I reached a high point where I was really in metabolic syndrome. I had triglycerides that were supposed to be under 200 at 451. Let me just keep track of the time here so I make sure I don't overstay my welcome. Anyway, my triglycerides were supposed to be under 200. We're at 451. My cholesterol was high, and for the first time in my life, at this high point on the graph, I had become pre-diabetic as well. And so I really was at a crossroads. And you know, I have small children. And when I found out about this program, which really is a medical food program, and that's something that distinguishes it from a lot of the other ones. It's a medical food program that is cash neutral, very simple and easy to follow. But what you see here, and this is a picture that I'm very proud of. This is a picture of my triglycerides dropping in a 60-day period into the normal. Right into the normal, as did my cholesterol, and I went from being pre-diabetic to being in the normal range as well. So you can see from that picture that this has really saved my life, and of course there's a before and after picture of me, and I'll even show you a few others here in the program so you can see it's doesn't just work for men. But anyway, I know that as realtors, you guys are very service oriented. You know, and you're always thinking, what can I do for my buyer? What can I do for my seller? And sometimes in that process of being so service-oriented, you know, you can forget to take care of yourself. And for many of you, you may be at a similar crossroads to myself, where you're maybe you're at a tipping point where you can choose to turn towards optimal health or continue along the way you are and head towards, you know, greater and greater health issues. So, again, the program, I say it's cash neutral, and let me explain that. It costs approximately $10 a day, but for that $10, the company supplies 75% of your food. One of the things that we learn in the program is that you're going to eat 6 meals a day. You can eat every 2 to 3 hours, and that's one of the beauties of this. In my old life, I used to be starving at dinner time, and the reason was because, well, traditionally Americans eat lunch around 12 or 1, and I wasn't getting home to eat dinner till around 7, sometimes 7:30 or 8, but even if I ate lunch at 12:30 and had dinner at 6:30, I was beyond hungry by that point. I was starving. And for me, you know, well, in fact, for everybody, we are designed, if you're extremely hungry, if you're really feeling starving, you're designed to overeat. You are genetically programmed to overeat. So that was my pattern. I would come home after 7 hours of not eating. I'd be starving. I would overeat, which of course causes your blood sugar to spike. And then that's followed by a crash. And that crash 30 minutes later, that's usually when I needed a cookie or perhaps some ice cream. So, and again, that's one of the other things that's so magical about this program. It actually has helped me to overcome my overeating problem, because when you sit down to dinner and you had some calories to keep you tided over at 4:30 and at 2:30 and at 12:30, you may be peckish at dinner time, but you won't be starving, and suddenly you're able to make good, solid decisions and stay within the right amount of food. And but the other thing that's really been remarkable to me is that the program has so nourished the body. As you can see from my numbers, everything returned to the normal. I think part of the beauty of it is that because you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, and it's a well-balanced, perfect ratio of protein and carbs and lots of vitamins and minerals, when you're super well nourished, it seems to just simply lower the cravings for the wrong stuff. In my case, for instance, I was so accustomed to eating treats, I had reached the point where, I was eating treats, 2 times a day or sometimes more, sometimes with dessert after lunch and dinner. So what I actually had done, and didn't realize it, I had really turned treat food into a staple. Because if you're eating something twice a day, it's a staple in your diet. And that doesn't mean when you reach optimal weight, I'm now in the optimal weight range for the first time since high school, by the way. And, I can have a treat once or twice a week, and it's not a problem. It's not a bad thing at all to have a treat once or twice a week. My problem was I had been turning my treats, as I mentioned, into a staple. And so, anyway, I'm going to be, let me just double check the time here. It is, overstay my welcome here. Yeah, so I'm going to be out at the back here. I've left you guys all those things to fill out, so I'll take a couple of quick questions now. And then I'm going to go to the back and I'll be waiting, and if you want to fill out those little questionnaires about why you might want to get to Optimal Health, I'll be waiting and to answer some more questions at the end. But I'll open the floor now if there's any quick questions. You in the back there at the Palo Alto one, this is my one question he asked me. Is the food good? Well, that's a great question, and my favorite answer to that question is, does it really matter? I mean, the reality of it is, if your sole focus is the most juicy, tastiest thing you can possibly get, McDonald's, Sizzler, there's lots of places to get the ultimate delicious thing. And yes, I hear you back there, it is, taste is important for sure. And yes, all of the foods, they have shakes, protein bars, soups, and all varieties and flavors, and they are tasty. But again, if your sole focus is where can I get the absolute tastiest thing, there's tastier food you can find out there. This is a means to an end, though, because no food tastes as good as healthy feels. So, and your taste